Welcome back, YouTubers, to another good and bad video of the week. Sorry, I should say the good and bad video of the week, because as this is the last good and bad of the week we've done, we've decided to do this in video form today, so you get to see us lounging around and doing what we usually do when we do the audio. We are the British Fist.
Coaching.
I am Mr. Parkin. This is, of course, NJ here.
What's up?
Usually this is where I say you can't hear him, but you can now see him. But you can now see him! So there we go. Right, subscribe above as usual. Like this video and comment your thoughts on anything that's happening this week in wrestling down below.
Make sure you contact us in the links in the Gooch box below.
Yes, indeed. So in this video today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Raw, what we thought of Raw, the good and bad segments of TNA, and the good and bad segments of Smackdown, and how they hype to their relative pay-per-views, etc. Do we have any more notes we need to say before we go into Raw, NJ?
All I have to say, people, is sit back and enjoy our last good and bad of the week.
Yes, do. So going into Raw this week, NJ, it was the go-home show going into TLC, and we had the Slammy Awards. Now, you know, the show itself was quite entertaining, but the only trouble is there was so much focus on the Slammies, kind of took away from the pay-per-view a little bit, didn't it?
It did. Again, they managed to fit it in so it's entertaining, but again, the amount of time they concentrated on the Slammies did take away from the rest of Raw.
It did make the Slammies feel like a big deal while making the pay-per-view seem very second fiddle. That was my issue with the show. It was a very entertaining show, don't get me wrong, but that was one of my big issues. Before we go on to the review, of course, of it, or, you know, I felt... We opened up with this whole Booker T. Hornswoggle presenting the award thing for Tell Me I Did Not Just See That, which Ross Dancing won. Now, this led us on to probably one of the worst opening segments we've ever had on a Raw, and that includes the Michael Cole Challenge.
I can't believe you've got to talk about this again, man.
Well, this is good about the week, brother. We have to do it. This was a terrible segment, in my opinion. You had the whole wrap-off, which was ridiculous. You know, JR forgot his lines. It was bad. It was hard to watch, wasn't it?
Really bad indeed. Awful, awful, awful.
And JR even does a spinneroonie.
Again, they just added more insult to injury there.
Pretty much. It was a terrible opener. We also got, you know, afterwards we got a segment involving Big Show and Wade Barrett where you had the holy shit moment of the year going to Big Show and Mark Henry for breaking the ring. Big Show and Wade Barrett, you've got a challenger for the World Heavyweight Championship, and you've also got Wade Barrett challenger for Orton.
Yes, at first you think, oh dear, who's meant to win here? But they actually did it right. It went down to a DQ, so I was happy with it.
I mean, it was an okay segment. Like you said, there was a DQ finish, so none of them really looked too bad. You had Show smashing a table and a chair on Barrett, but at least the match ended in a DQ, and Barrett didn't look at all really that too weak in this. He's against Big Show, so the match went about 3 minutes. It was okay. I'm going to give it the so-so segment.
Yeah, it was somewhat effective, but obviously it wasn't the best segment, though.
And just to let you know, guys, we're not going to be talking about the Slammies, too much of the Slammies here. We're going to talk more about what actually happened in terms of the segments, because there wasn't really that much if you really put it down. So the next segment we had after that, we had loads of Slammy Awards, and after that we had David... I remember this. Otunga and Atlas presenting Trending Star of the Year. Oh God, I forgot about that, didn't I? Santino and Bella twins, I forget. You know, I've been botching a lot recently, NJ. And I really wanted to get onto my mark-out moment. But fuck it, we'll have to do this one first. The whole Triple H return promo.
Again, it was a cheap way of getting him back into action. But obviously he's back now. Had his say about Kevin Nash. Got his point across, and it was needed on the last show before pay-per-view. Yeah,
Triple H Tombstone Taker at WrestleMania 27 won the Oh My God Moment of the Year award. I guess. Triple H basically returns to the sledgehammer, cuts a little promo. This is our main event. It's good to see Triple H back, and so he can actually hype up his match with Kevin Nash. So I'll give it. It was a decent segment in that sense, I guess. But you just saw from this that the Slammies. It kind of annoys me how the Slammies aren't really legit. It's kind of just, it seems like a way of getting people on the show. As much as it kind of incorporated into the show, and that was alright, it just didn't really feel like the Slammies, did it?
No, again, moved the Slammies aside. Triple H got what was needed to be done on the last Raw before the pay-per-view, so that it was effective in that segment there.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to talk about until I realised that I was one segment ahead of myself. That's just how my mind works, NJ. I'm like a snooker player. Otunga and Atlas present Trending Star of the Year award, and my mark-out moment of the night was Tony Atlas laughing.
Again, this really got on Otunga's nerves. Added more to the segment. It was entertainment, which WWE need. Little entertainment segments throughout the show.
It was funny. It did get a little bit annoying after about a minute or so, but it was still entertaining. This led to a very, very good Fatal 4-Way match between Cody Rhodes, Daniel Bryan, Zack Ryder, and Ziggler. 4 guys that can work a good match. It got a good 15 minutes. This was a very, very good Fatal 4-Way match, I thought.
I really can't complain about this because they all looked strong throughout the match. Yeah. I thought it was nicely done.
You had Daniel Bryan showing his intensity throughout the match, and you had Ziggler getting the pin on Bryan, but you could say Bryan getting pinned, but it was a Fatal 4-Way, and the other 3 had booked to the pay-per-view, so I don't know. And then you have Ryder winning the Slammy, and Ziggler attacking him after the match, so it helped hype their match to the pay-per-view. It was a good segment.
The match did justice, but he also added on, like you said, the US Championship build, so I thought it was a nice segment all the way through.
For our second-hour main event, we had Punk and Orton versus Miz and Del Rio. This is a match, basically, with Orton involved, hyping up that Triple Threat TLC match. I did enjoy this tag team match. We had Barrett interfering. Again, I thought this was another good segment. It was a good tag match.
Well, the way I liked it, you had Orton being taken down by Barrett. The match ended with Miz getting the squirrel crushing finale for the win, and then they team up on him, beat him down, making them look strong compared to last week when Punk came on top.
Exactly. So you kind of needed to legitimise, at least for 1 week, the heels, and they did work together with the ladder. And then Miz cuts a great promo on Punk while Del Rio has him in the crossarm breaker. I kind of feel that this match is really there to kind of have Del Rio, the match of the pay-per-view that is, to have Del Rio do the job to CM Punk and have a Punk Miz feud. And I think they did that well here, as they had Miz the kind of focal point of the segment. I did think the segment was very good at hyping their TLC match, and they needed it because it's had 2 weeks of build.
Well, with this match being kind of quickly done, and you're actually taking Miz out of a possible match against Cena into a championship match. Again, it's good and effective. I like this segment.
Yeah, we also during this night we did have a promo by John Cena, who accepted the award for his and Rock's announcement, and he talked about The Rock and all that kind of shit. So we did see Cena some point tonight, but he's not really being involved at the pay-per-view, I guess. No. But until we get to the main event, Sheamus, we get a segment with Sheamus. This was filler. This was so filler. He comes to the ring. Jinder Mahal comes out, and they must have been really pressed for time because they just had Sheamus bro kick him and walk out. Filler.
Again, it was really filler. They could have saved it for Smackdown and maybe extended other segments, other matches, but whatever. It was just filler there.
Superstar of the Year award went to CM Punk. Are we really surprised?
No, he's had the biggest thing out the 2011. Others were quite close, but it was Punk going to be all the way.
Who did we choose for our Superstar of the Year this year, MJ?
Mark Henry!
Fucking Henry, exactly. If you want to check that out, check the video out. It'll be linked in the description box below. Also, check out next week when we're going to be doing our own Slammy categories, and we're going to be picking winners for that too. So, Superstar of the Year went to CM Punk. We got to see Rey Mysterio. We got a lot of returns tonight, didn't we? We got Road Dogg, we got Lisa. We got loads of little returns, which really did help the nostalgia feel of the show, and Goldust too. That was very good.
It was very good. They did nice to bring all these guests back to make it a special Raw, so I liked it.
It did make it feel a little bit more special. And these Slammies, even though they didn't have much to do with the pay-per-view, I did feel these Slammies themselves were quite entertaining. And I was actually, and considering Raw has been quite boring as of late and not really the best of shows, this did add something to the show which you needed, and that was entertainment, even though it didn't have anything to do with the pay-per-view, which is essentially the point of a go-home show.
No, again, yes, I have my doubts about the Slammies. Could have gone to younger stars. He could have gone to Edge. He could have won an award there.
Yeah.
So there's doubts about it. Overall, it was entertaining.
And then we get to the main event: Mark Henry versus John Cena. This was added last week, so we had some time to get some hype. The match itself, you had Mark Henry being dominant, but that's really not the point. The match itself was okay, but then we get the return. This is what the hyping stuff up does to NJ. You get the return of the Monster Cage! What a return this was! I marked out for this. It was a genuine surprise. I know you can't hide your delight, so go on, have your say.
Again, I'm going to make this quick. Obviously, we did it all in the Raw review. But Kane's back. Oh my God. Take down Cena. This is actually leaving us wondering, is he going to go after Cena? Is he going to go after Mark Kane and Cena? Who knows?
It was a very good main event in the fact that we had a genuine surprise. And, you've got Cena, who's not put to the pay-per-view, getting dominated by Kane with the mask. Fantastic return. And it really does leave us wondering, who is Kane going to face? What's going to happen there? But will he face Cena? Will he continue on to Mark Henry? And this is what adding a visual aid helps us to do. You saw MJ's face there. He's loving the Kane return.
The video packages led up to this. Yes, it could have done it on a pay-per-view. People have said all about that. But again, it was unexpected on a Raw before TLC. Who knows what's going to happen next? Yeah, so I think overall, really, it's not really the best going show, but it was a very entertaining Raw, wasn't it? Very entertaining Raw compared to what we've had in the past few weeks.
And we'll talk more about that into our overall thoughts, but I guess for now we'll go on to TNA, NJ. So to start off TNA this week, we had the pay-per-view was called Final Resolution.
Was it?
Yeah, it was called Final Resolution, and we opened up with a 5-minute overtime match from the main event. AJ Styles versus Bobby Roode. Now, personally, I would say to myself, this was a nice way to open. I did enjoy the way this opened the show. It had a continuous feel from the pay-per-view, even though I thought that TNA really should have. Really should have done this at the pay-per-view, especially if they're going to end the AJ Styles thing. It would have been better if they ended it clean rather than just continuing it onto a TV show. But a very, very nice way to start the show. I'll give it that.
Well, what I'm going to say is that yes, it could have been on the pay-per-view. That was my first big problem going into this TNA. The match itself, okay, good. It was an entertaining match. But then instead of having that match end clean, they added an extra few minutes on.
Well, they had an extra 5 minutes. The match ends in a draw. The crowd are really into it, though, and the crowd are really good on this Impact. I'll give it that. And then you had Sting coming out, giving it another 5 more minutes. The crowd wanted it. That's the most active I've seen in a TNA Impact crowd in the Impact Zone before. And then you have Bobby Roode getting the win on AJ's bad leg with the half Boston Crab, so you've got a definitive win on free TV, mind you. But still a good way to open up TNA. It was nice and different. I'll give it that. I mean, that's what I'll say.
They delayed the win of the match, but again, it was a good opener.
Yeah, and then we had the post-match interviews with AJ Styles and Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode saying he got the job done. AJ Styles talking about being this close. At least it made the segment feel a bit more important that we got some interviews after the match itself happened.
Yeah, gave it importance, I was going to say,
yeah. After that, we get the announcement. Well, it wasn't really an announcement. We get Rob Terry and Hernandez versus Steiner and Abyss, and they kind of... Not very well. They announced a tag team tournament which is going to happen over the next 2 weeks where they put a wildcard tag team tournament where they put random tag teams together, and the winner of this tournament will get a title shot against Morgan and Crimson at Genesis.
Well, this comes to my second problem. Again, as good as it is that you're having this emphasis on the tag team division, it's kind of just happened out the blue and you're like, okay, where did this come from?
Could have announced it better.
That could have made me like it a bit more.
And it didn't help the presentation of the show too much when they didn't really explain it very well. But at the same time, I'll say that we had 2 tag matches tonight. The first of which was Rob Terry Hernandez versus Steiner and Abyss. And I kind of like this idea of pairing people. This is something I think WWE need to do. And like you said, it's making the tag teams an essential part of the show. And it's giving us some tag, because let's face it, we don't have Ink anymore. We don't have Mexican America anymore. So we need to try and fit tag teams together. So I thought this was a good idea. I kind of liked it.
Again, they combine all these tags, but Steiner and Abyss, that's obviously going to be to a future feud there. So again, it did its justice in making random tag teams going towards something that's going to be at pay-per-view. So I think it did its justice, but it's just a bit random.
Rob Terry and Hernandez versus Steiner and Abyss. Both teams worked together okay. Steiner, we had a pre-match thing with Steiner saying that if him and Abyss are on the same page. We have Abyss, a decent 4-minute tag match. Abyss letting Steiner get the pin.
Yeah, a bit random, obviously. I think it's all adding up to something in the future.
It's just furthering on that storyline, isn't it? Using this wild card thing to do it. We also had... So I thought that was a okay segment. I like this idea of the wild card tournament, so I'll give it a plus.
After seeing that match, I am starting to like it more than I did at first.
Kurt Angle comes out to cut a promo. He comes out and calls out Sting, and he wants a rematch with James Storm, saying that James Storm has been cheating with the loaded boots. This was short, very sweet, effective. It will lead to a rematch, I imagine. So I'm happy with this.
Yeah, got in Sting's face. You can see how much he really wanted this match. So it's a good match. And we've seen them wrestle before, so I'm looking forward to it.
Angle talks about going to Storm's hometown and getting his rematch. So I imagine they'll have a rematch at Genesis, which I do want to see very badly. Maybe sometime some kind of stipulation match. Who really knows?
Would be interesting.
After that, we got a first in a best of 3 X Division series. Now it seems to me that we have Austin Aries, Kid Cash, and Jesse Sorensen already penned in at the pay-per-view. And it seems like over the 4th spot, they're having this best-of-3 series between Anthony Nese and Zema Ion. It wasn't really announced, again, like the tag team, it wasn't really announced or explained properly, was it?
No, that was kind of disappointing. I'm going to this show expecting a good follow-on from the pay-per-view. This just came out of the blue. If this was announced as well, I would have been more to it. But taking that away, it was a good match.
It was, I mean, I felt they could have focused a little bit more on the whole X Division. Like, you had Anthony Nese with no entrance. The match didn't go very long. But I'll say this. It's early hype towards Genesis, and you've got 2 new guys in there like Anthony Nese and Zema Ion that haven't got too much TV time, and they're going to have 3 matches the next week. So it gives me something to look forward to for the next 2 weeks, which is good. And a best of, Zema Ion wins this match. You get the whole interview with him at the end, doing that whole Zema Ion crap and, talking about being pretty. I did enjoy this segment, X Division concentration.
I did like how the fact that Bill Irons to be this new X Division wrestler, and it's something that we all need to get behind, because obviously we need to get the X Division going again like it has.
Exactly. So this will lead to some kind of pay-per-view match. I thought this was a good segment, personally. I liked it.
I liked it. It was good.
Gunner with Ric Flair versus Jesse Neal was our next match. This kind of had an enhancement match feel, as we know that Jesse Neal is going to be leaving TNA. So this was their way of writing him off TV. And Ric Flair with Gunner. Although Gunner's been doing jobs to Bischoff, and that's really stopped his credibility, if they have a guy like Ric Flair with Gunner, it's kind of going to help him, isn't it? Because he's got a name associated with him.
Yeah, again, having Ric Flair by his side, Ric Flair weren't needed, because all it basically led down to was Gunner doing a DDT, I think it was, to Neal onto the pavement.
It was pretty much a DQ finish, like MJ said, Gunner doing the DDT on Neal on the concrete, and working an injury angle with Jesse Neal. I do like the fact they're putting a guy like Ric Flair with Gunner, trying to make him seem like more of a big deal. It just a bit of a shame they've had him job into Garrett Bischoff lately. Hopefully this will be the start of something good for Gunner, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be.
So I guess an effective segment in the sense that it kind of made him seem like a big deal before a pay-per-view, and they're kind of starting something. Maybe. Who knows?
Could be.
Our main event, Jeff Hardy comes out to cut a promo talking about being the #1 contender for Genesis. And then we have none other than Bully Ray coming out and saying that Jeff Hardy will face him in the main event tonight. So we've got our main event match announced, Bully Ray versus Jeff Hardy.
You normally get the main event open at the beginning of the night, but because we had that match, it's good it got announced now.
Yeah. It was good back and forth between these two, and it kind of led me to think that why didn't these two have a feud? Because it would make logical sense, and they have history. Why didn't these two have a feud before Jeff Hardy got his #1 contendership on that road to redemption for Jeff Hardy? I think that would have been a good feud to have.
It would have been, because obviously they've had past, like you said. It would have been a good match.
After this promo, I thought this was a good promo segment personally. I just think it was good to hype up the main event and put some kind of heat between the two. So I'll give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs up there, yes.
In our next tag match in the wild card tournament, we had Samoa Joe and Magnus versus Doug Williams and Robbie E. We had a nice backstage segment with Magnus and Joe talking about trying to get an opportunity and they don't care how, which is kind of real because lately guys like Magnus and Samoa Joe haven't been getting opportunities. So I kind of liked how they did this backstage segment.
No, and I guess now we get progressing on in the year, into the new year. Hopefully this will be a new door for Samoa Joe to enter and walk through.
Yeah, we have Samoa Joe and Magnus together as a tag team. They win the match, though. The thing is, you have Magnus and Doug Williams against each other, and while they have good chemistry in the ring, I kind of thought to myself, why can't British Invasion be together? Just, I'd like to see that.
That is a question. It's not going to mean they're breaking up, but having them against each other leaves us wondering what's going to happen next.
The best part of this match, though, was Samoa Joe making Robert E look like a dick. That was my mark-out moment of the night. Yes, Jarrett's got fired, but this was my mark-out moment. Samoa Joe just walking aside and making Robert E look like a right twat.
That was a very fun moment.
Then we have Devon coming out to cut a promo, calling out Pope. This thing has been escalating a lot. We've seen Devon's kids, and they're finally going some of them now. You have Devon talking about being a dad, telling them to come home with him. They're going to train correctly. And it looks like now Pope is heel and he's got the kids on his side now.
Again, I'm just hoping they're going to get onto this feud, finish it, and move on. Because obviously Pope could go on to anything. Devon could probably go on to anything. But having them against each other, it's not really what we want to see. This
was a well-worked promo. It's just that I don't like the whole premise of it. I don't like Pope being heel. I don't like the whole Devon's kids getting involved. It kind of, I don't like that. You had Pope low-blowing Devon and they all stand over Devon. I guess they're going to be on a rivalry now. Good might work, but I just don't care too much about this feud. That's the problem.
No, the kids may come eventual tag team, but obviously this segment was effective, but not what we like.
So thumbs up for work, but thumbs down for the fact that we just don't care about it. We then have a pretty pointless knockouts match: Madison Rayne versus Tracy Brooks. We went 4 minutes. You had Madison Rayne winning. It didn't really seem that important, did it?
No, not at all.
I think you could have probably taken this time out and maybe given it to some of the... Because we had a lot of matches on this show, but they didn't really get enough time, and it's nice to see a lot of action. I think this could have been taken out in favour of, giving some other segments more time throughout the night.
Yeah, I think it could have. It could have indeed.
And then we get on to, what we've been wanting to happen ever since we've been starting to review Impact. I know a certain Schleg Daddy has too. Over the show, we get Karen and Jeff Jarrett trying to kiss up to Sting, as we know that they were going to get fired from what happened at the pay-per-view. And then we have the segment where Sting fires them both. And this is a great moment.
Yeah, it all builded up to backfiring against each other, dissing each other, saying that you should be fired, you should be fired.
Typical marriage, eh?
That's how it should go, yes. Yeah. And then it comes down to both being fired. Again, we were told one's getting fired, tell them both fired. It's opened the new door to the knockout being free again, and Jeff Jarrett out of the spotlight.
And the young stars maybe getting some time on TV instead of Jeff Jarrett. So this segment was good in just the sense that it fired Jeff Jarrett, it fired two people that I don't want to see on TV. So it was, for me, a good segment. It was a backstage segment. So I would have liked it to happen at the pay-per-view, but I'm just glad it's fucking happened and these two are off to India doing their project.
So the pay-per-view could have been better.
Main event of the evening. Didn't really get much time for this, but we got Jeff Hardy versus Bully Ray. TNA went into overtime today, on Thursday even. It was a 5-minute match. It did feel very... We had Rude on commentary, so they're starting this whole Jeff Hardy Rude thing with Rude being the typical heel on commentary. It went about 5 minutes. It did seem very rushed for a main event. I'd like to have seen it get a bit more time.
Again, it could have been better with more time, but you do expect more from Bully Ray, put on long matches and actually put Jeff over. But this match, Jeff won, so it got to what it needed to in the time limit.
Exactly. Your challenger winning. Rude and Bully Ray attack Hardy after the match and put Hardy through a table.
Good spot.
And then Sting comes down to the ring and Rude and Bully Ray attack Sting. So it's kind of accentuating Rude's heel gimmick and while hyping up for their Genesis match between Jeff Hardy and Rude. So it was a good segment to end the show post-match.
Attacking the boss was something that Lee just wondered what's going to happen next. But again, it was another effective moment. Lee just wondering now what's going to happen between Rude and Jeff, AJ, Bully. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, wow, Sting. Jesus Christ. Well, let's just move on to Smackdown, shall we?
Yeah, let's.
So to open up Smackdown this week, we had none other than Josh Matthews interviewing Booker T. And we see footage from that attack and that match we had last week between Booker T and Cody Rhodes. And, it was a nice way to open the show. Opening up with Booker T, a guy who people know about, a legend, so to speak. And you had Cody Rhodes in there too. So I thought this was a good way to open the show with a mid-card IC Championship feud.
It's another week flowing on where we're having these two open the show. It's really giving them the build and the push they need towards their match at TLC.
Yeah, and we get Rhodes coming out too. We get Booker T talking about Rhodes' ego and he's trying to make a name for himself through Booker T and the pay-per-view match as well. Then out comes Cody Rhodes talking about Booker T falling to him at the pay-per-view. A great promo here by Cody Rhodes. I did enjoy this Cody Rhodes promo. And he also announces that he'll face Daniel Bryan right now, and if Booker T interferes in the match at TLC will be off, and Booker will be suspended indefinitely.
So the interesting thing about this is that it's hyped up the match at TLC, gave us an opening match ready for Cody Rhodes to look ready for the pay-per-view, so I thought it was effective.
The segment itself is very good. I'll give this a thumbs up. And then this led on to Cody Rhodes versus Daniel Bryan in a match which went about 6 minutes, excluding the adverts. You could say this is the third time these guys have faced off, and it was a good match. It did make Cody Rhodes look strong. He got the clean victory on Daniel Bryan, who's supposed to be a Money in the Bank winner. Just saying.
Well, the way I see it is that, again, Cody Rhodes needed to have a win, but obviously, why did it have to be Daniel Bryan?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they could have maybe had him beat a jobber, but who really knows? They did a good job on commentary, though, in this match. I like the way they're incorporating the Booker T commentary into this whole Cody Rhodes match. So I'll give this a thumbs up, too. I did enjoy this, especially continuing on from the opener. I thought this was a very good opening series of segments for SmackDown.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up, almost slip it down to thumbs middle, just because of Daniel Bryan being involved in Booker T and Cody Rhodes' match.
Yeah, as essentially there to carry out storylines, which isn't really how you should book your Money in the Bank.
No, it's not. No.
Alicia Fox versus Natalya.
Next.
Alicia Fox wins with a roll-up and they embarrass Natalya big time. Do we really care?
Well, I care because I want to see Natalya doing good as she did, but this just did it horrible for her.
Hold on a sec, NJ, hold on. Just got a text from the British vs. Tea Time guys again. I don't know what they're doing texting me. Ho, ho, ho.
Okay, get moved for Christmas time.
Yeah, I guess, or they could just really like Divas. Next, we have the Usos versus Epico and Primo, who come out with Rosa Mendes. I like the fact, even though they don't have a pay-per-view match, I feel that they've had a win over the Usos. They had a win over Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston on the Tribute to the Truth show. They were one of very little heels to win on that show. So we had them picking up the victory again. And does this mean they're going to have a pay-per-view match? I think it could do, but I kind of think it won't. It'll be very last minute.
Well, with the limited tag teams we do get, I'm not really bothered too much. But if they do switch hands or do have a championship match, I'm all for it.
I'm liking this Epico Primo team, especially with Rosa Mendes. It kind of makes them feel a bit more like a big deal. I'm glad they're getting some TV time, as I feel that, seeing as this whole Hunico Sin Cara thing went, I think they do have something they can work with there with Epico and Primo.
I think they could, yes.
So I say it was an okay segment, even though it might not lead to something at the pay-per-view. It still kind of gave us two tag teams.
Okay segment for SmackDown, yes.
As our main event approached, we had Jack Swagger thinking he could be the freaking World Heavyweight Champion, which was funny as. Big Show versus Jack Swagger was our main event. They show the history of Jack Swagger beating Big Show at Money in the Bank last year, which was good. And they do try and make Swagger seem like a big deal with this whole submission thing and him injuring Big Show. And they had Mark Henry coming up to him backstage saying he wants him to injure him. So I kind of liked how they built up to this main event.
Well, he managed to put a good longish match at Big Show, which was unexpected. I thought Big Show was just going to squash him and finish him.
Yeah. especially with the way Swagger's been booked.
That's true. And so I guess this match was somewhat decent because it made Big Show look more ready for the pay-per-view and Jack Swagger just stay where he is.
I did enjoy this segment overall because you had Mark Henry coming down doing the classic heel sitting by the ring. It seemed to me like a very good old school segment in the fact that you have Swagger trying to prove himself against Big Show. Big Show gets the win with the WMD. The match went about 6 minutes, and then Big Show then attacks Swagger, and then Henry attacks Swagger in a camera with a chair.
I guess it's all adding to the chair effect, ready for their match. So it did what it needed.
It was a good segment, overall hype for the pay-per-view, I thought. It was a good segment. Thumbs up for me.
Thumbs up.
In a bit of filler, we get Heath Slater versus Ted DiBiase in what is essentially an enhancement match, but we get to see footage of the DiBiase posse. It's nice to be able to actually see and associate with this now, isn't it? So that's what's getting him over.
It shows more about Ted DiBiase's character and his rise to back up to mid-card.
Yeah, the match itself went about 3 minutes. DiBiase wins again. After the match, you had Jinder Mahal attacking DiBiase, which I was thinking, maybe this can go somewhere. And while he's attacking him, I'm thinking, he was getting some heat. And then Teddy Long comes out and kills any heat that Jinder Mahal had and books him in a match against Sheamus. It's like, how are these young heels supposed to get heat when you have Teddy Long coming out and kind of just stopping it? It kind of to me.
I'm thinking with the segment that you had, instead of adding more people to SmackDown, they could have just finished with Heath Slater and Ted DiBiase and the whole Jinder Mahal finish. It would have just finished there.
Jinder Mahal standing over Ted DiBiase would insinuate that they might have some kind of feud, which could have done well. But instead they then continued on to a Sheamus Jinder Mahal match with Sheamus squashing him. So any heat that Jinder Mahal ever got from that segment is now officially gone. It's essentially filler. It gets Sheamus on TV. I didn't really like this too much. No. My opinion, it was just filler. It was. Main event of the evening, we had Orton and Ryder versus Ziggler and Barrett. This was a good tag match. We went for about 12 minutes, a solid main event tag match, and I think in this instance, like we said in the SmackDown review, this main event was worthy of being a main event rather than Big Show Mark Henry.
It was, and it hyped up 2 matches, which was good. It gave us the whole, okay, they're all ready for the winners. But again, just like SmackDown last week, you had Orton coming out looking strong and on top over the hill.
Well, I generally thought this was a good segment. I generally thought that Ziggler and Barrett were booked quite well in this match. They worked the typical heels on top, and with the on the top of babyfaces type tag match, and it was well worked. You had Orton RKOing Ziggler. Again, it's kind of like second week in a row you've had Orton come on top against Ziggler. It's just a bit weird. But at least you had Orton staring at Barrett while he was pinning, which is that feud doesn't really need too much hype. So I'd say it was a decent segment in the fact that it hyped both matches. It got the US title match in the main event. You had the IC title match open the show and the US title match in the main event, which is good.
It's got obviously what needed. It's got us hyped for the pay-per-views. I think overall SmackDown has done its justice, especially with the matches due into the pay-per-view.
I wish the heels would have won though. I really do. That would have made it a whole lot better going into the pay-per-view, in my opinion. But after the match, you had Barrett standing on the table and staring at Orton. It was a nice thing in that it was just a very simple way of hyping up, because their matches had a lot of hype. It didn't really need too much. It was just a nice, simple, old school way of hyping up their feud for the pay-per-view, isn't it?
It was indeed.
Overall, I just thought it was a good segment, a good way to end the show. Nice tag match.
Very good indeed.
Any more things to say before we move on to our overall thoughts?
That's it.
Right, well, let's go on to our overall thoughts then, NJ. In video format. Now, NJ, the question I usually ask you in this sense, especially now it's our last good and bad of the week. On the last good and bad of the week we ever do, what did you think was the best show this week? Second best, third best, and give me your reasons why.
Raw was entertaining. I'm going to give it that. TNA's got us looking forward to certain things, and SmackDown's gave us pay-per-view hype. So it may be that order.
Okay, because I think that this week was generally a decent week, a very good week for WWE and TNA. I kind of liked all 3 shows. I don't really want to grade them in any particular order, but I will just say this: Raw was a very entertaining show, in my opinion. It didn't do enough for the pay-per-view, but it was still very entertaining. TNA, we had a lot of matches. I did generally enjoy TNA's show. There were a couple of flaws here and there, but you kind of expect that with TNA. We got some interesting concepts on that show with the whole tag team tournament, the X Division Best of 3 series, some good early hype for Genesis, and generally what I thought was a nice show to follow Final Resolution with some interesting way of starting it and some interesting things between it. With SmackDown, you had a little bit of filler, but the segments on SmackDown were very well done, hyping up to the TLC pay-per-view. So they were all good in their own way this week. Raw offered me entertainment. TNA and Smackdown offered me more pay-per-view hype towards that kind of thing.
Well, what I'm going to say is that because of what the show's given us, let's put Raw and Smackdown together. Add them together, they gave us matches that we want to somewhat look forward to at the pay-per-view. Maybe the pay-per-view's not great. TNA has given us matches that to look forward to in the next couple of weeks leading up to Genesis. So I think both shows were effective.
Yeah, so we'll just pretty much end by saying that. No particular order. Both, all 3 shows this week were okay, and they offered us something different, which we both wanted, which is what we want to get from a wrestling show, isn't it?
It is indeed.
So we'll just end this now by saying, get your thoughts on, anything that's happened this week in wrestling, even news, down in that comment section below. And for the last time on our Good and Bad of the Week audio/video, we're going to have NJ ending this show.
So thank you very much for tuning in to our Good and Bad of the Week. We've enjoyed it. It's given us something else to do, given us time to add more information into our shows. And all I can say now is thank you very much from the British Fist, Mr. Parkin, and me, NJ. Goodbye.